Hello everyone, and welcome! Today we bring you a very sad and touching piece of news from the world of art, literature, and cinema. Marjane Satrapi, one of the most beloved and courageous artists of our time, has passed away. She died on June the 4th, 2026, in the city of Paris, France. She was just 56 years old. The news of her passing has sent waves of sadness across the world, and millions of people who loved her work are mourning this great loss today. Marjane Satrapi was a Franco-Iranian artist, author, and film director, a woman who used her pencil, her words, and her camera to fight for freedom and truth. She was born on November the 22nd, 1969 in Rasht, a city in northern Iran. She grew up in a family that was deeply political and believed strongly in the ideals of freedom and justice. But when Marjane was just 10 years old, her world changed completely. In 1979, a great revolution swept across Iran, and the Islamic Republic came to power. Women and girls lost many of their rights. Life became very restricted, especially for families like Marjane's who believed in freedom. Seeing the danger, her parents made a very hard decision. They sent their young daughter alone to Europe to get a better education and a safer life. This painful journey of leaving her home country, growing up in a foreign land, and carrying the memories of Iran in her heart became the story of her greatest work, a graphic novel called Persepolis. Persepolis was an autobiography told through pictures and words, a style called a graphic novel. Marjane Satrapi wrote and drew this book in French, published in 4 parts between the years 2000 and 2003. It was then published in English in 2003 and 2004. In this book, she described her childhood in Iran living under the strict rules of the Islamic Republic, and then her teenage years in Europe, feeling lost and far from home. The book was an instant hit around the world. It won the Angoulême Coup de Coeur Award at one of France's most prestigious comic festival in 2001, one of the highest honors in the world of graphic novels. But Marjane did not stop there. In 2007, she turned Persepolis into an animated film, which she directed together with Vincent Perronneau. The film premiered at the famous Cannes Film Festival in France, where it won the prestigious jury prize. It was then chosen as the French entry for the Best International Film Award at the 80th Academy Awards in America, and it was also nominated for Best Animated Feature, making Marjane Satrapi the very first woman in history to ever receive an Academy Award nomination in that category. That is a historic achievement that will never be forgotten. Beyond Persepolis, Marjane created many more beautiful and powerful works throughout her life. Her second graphic novel, Chicken with Plums, published in 2004, also won the top Angoulême Best Comic Book Award in 2005, and she later directed its film adaptation in 2011. She also directed The Voices in 2014, a dark comedy horror film starring Ryan Reynolds, and in 2019 she made Radioactive, a biographical film about the brilliant scientist Marie Curie, who won the Nobel Prize not once, but twice in her life. But her final, and perhaps most emotional work, was a comic book called Woman, Life, Freedom, published in 2024. This book was dedicated to the brave women of Iran who rose up to demand their rights and freedom, inspired by the death of a young woman named Mahsa Amini in 2022. Marjane had publicly and very strongly supported those protests, calling the women of Iran brave and saying that the Women Life Freedom movement was history in the making. Her entire life, Marjane was an outspoken and fearless critic of Iran's government. In 1994, she moved permanently to France, and in 2006, she became a French citizen. She was also honored in 2024 with the prestigious Princess of Asturias Award for Communication and Humanities, one of the most respected awards in the Spanish-speaking world. Now, the story of how Marjane Satrapi passed away is also deeply emotional and heartbreaking. Her family said in a statement that she died of sadness, of a broken heart, more than a year after the death of her husband and the great love of her life, Mattias Ripa. Mattias was a Swedish producer, actor, and screenwriter who died on April 8, 2025. And in the days before her own death, Marjane had been sharing very emotional messages on her Instagram page, where her posts spelled out the words, "For I lost the love of my life." The French president's office at the Élysée Palace released a statement saying that her work had captivated a global audience, and that her passing marks the loss of a leading figure in French culture, and an artist deeply committed to freedom, whose work carried a universal message and earned her immense international acclaim. The world has lost a truly rare and beautiful soul today. Marjane Satrapi was not just an artist. She was a voice for millions of people who could not speak for themselves. She turned her own pain into art and her art into hope. May she rest in peace.